Welcome aboard to podcast 43 in the series of the Voyage to Back Yonder. In our last episode, we talked about the kings and the queens in our lives. You know, those who we've allowed to influence our choices on whether we're happy or sad. You know, we've pretended that they rule over our emotions because we've convinced ourselves that power over us exists outside of ourselves. But we also learned that we are the only ones who have the true reign over our emotional lives. When we question the emotions we feel, we can understand where they come from and why we're making that specific emotional choice with that specific situation. You know, trying to be in control of the outside world is one of the things we're taught we're supposed to do. You know, if something doesn't turn out or match up to what our conditional love laws tell us should happen, we probably fear it means we are unacceptable and worthless. So we try very hard to make sure that all our conditional love laws are fulfilled because we want to feel acceptable and lovable. We're used to feeling that way back home. You know, before we're born, I believe we come from a place of unconditional love. So we're always loved because there's no way to lose unconditional love. But we come here to a place of pretend, a place where we can pretend to lose this made-up conditional love. You know, forgetting for a time that we're unconditionally loved gives us the opportunity to fear. And we can realize that we or others are in fear a few different ways. You know, one of the things I've noticed is that if I or someone else are in fear, we're usually using one or more of the manipulation tactics. Each of the following tactics we're going to talk about, they're all designed to get the attention and conditional love of others. Now, it seems that the stages of manipulation flow from being hurt to being angry to rejecting or fleeing from a situation. So let's see if any of this resonates with you at all. Stage one, which I call "you hurt me." It's been my observation that the first manipulation tactic that we seem to start with is acting hurt. It could be tears in front of people we want attention from, or acting depressed, presenting ourselves as unworthy or as a victim. Those could be ways that we've been taught to have people feel bad for us and then do what we want them to do. Because majority of us are taught that others' emotional choices are our responsibility, we can be sucked into the vacuum of trying to make an internally unhappy person externally happy. But since all those emotions are happening inside the other person, that's out of our control. Now, maybe we can make it an easier or harder choice for someone to choose happiness. But I have found that I can only ultimately be in control of my own emotional choices. Acting hurt might get us the external attention we crave at times, but I usually find that it does not fulfill the inner unconditional love that I'm searching for. And eventually, people can become exhausted being around someone who's in victim mode a lot of the time. It's been my experience that everyone is in the same struggle of trying to stay afloat above the water. So when someone else appears to be giving up, we lend one of our hands to try to support them until they're rested and able to stay afloat themselves. But if I'm always doing that to everyone around me, I'm going to be drained a lot of the time. Maybe you can relate. But it's amazing when we realize that we're all swimming in a salt sea. And all we have to do is surrender to the water and just float on our back. No one has to drown at all. After stage 1 of acting hurt, if we don't get the attention we want that way, then it appears we tend to escalate into stage 2, which is you make me angry. And we can try to force the other person to do what we want through actions that might instill fear in them. And many of us don't want to be held accountable for making someone angry because that could mean we aren't perfect and that we're unlovable. So we try to keep people from expressing anger or being upset. And we also might fear physical or emotional harm. Because all of us, when we have reached stage 2, we've moved into fear. And this stage 2 represents our movement into the fight in the fight or flight mode. Screaming, throwing things around, slamming doors, speeding off in the car. Holy frickin' moly, you better stay out of my way or submit to my will. Does any of this sound familiar yet? Well, hold on. If stage 1 and 2 didn't work, then we tend to move into the final stage of rejection. And that's the root of most of our fears, being rejected, losing love, or appearing to be unlovable. And until we learn self-love, we'll often give in to the manipulation of others in order to avoid being rejected. That cold shoulder, the silent treatment, the withholding of intimacy, not answering the phone or texts, rejection. And that's the flight in the fight or flight mode. We reject first and run out of fear, hoping that the other person will fear being rejected more and surrender to our will. I'm sure we've all experienced at least one of these stages from others, and most likely we've all used at least one of these to get attention or what we wanted. It's not new. These have been around for centuries, and they've been passed down from generation to generation. It's really what we all have been taught. It's part of the fear ego that is part of the human psyche, who we are and the characters we play. Someone doesn't get what they want, so they cry. They don't get the response they want, so they get angry and escalate and yell hurtful comments. Not yet getting what they want, they reject, hanging up the phone or walking away. And if they still don't get what they want with that rejection, they'll probably circle back around and begin the stage 1 of crying and saying, "You hurt me." Watch it happen. Awareness is an eye-opener. Just try not to laugh when you see it happening. At least not in front of them, because it tends to throw gasoline on the fire. But I've noticed that when we're in fear, that we don't listen too much to what someone else is saying. When we're in the state of fear, our fear ego only allows us to hear what it wants us to hear. And those are usually things that are supporting our fear. Those other proof items that don't support that thing that we're fearing somehow fall silently to the side for that moment. The only thing we seem to be able to give anyone is either more fear by telling them who they should be, because that's telling them they're failing us, or we can give unconditional love for who they really are. A mighty, powerful, eternal, supernatural spirit being made of unconditional love, playing a small character on this small planet. Our fear is based in our self-worth. Even if we tell someone everything we think they want to hear, they could find something else to be sad or angry about. We are being a mirror for each other. So until our inner self-worth is confronted, we'll continually still see shortcomings in things in people around us, because they are mirroring back to us how we are feeling about ourselves. Until next episode, maybe think about situations where people were sad, angry, or rejected you. Can you see how they were in fear? What were they fearing? Then maybe think about situations where you expressed your sadness, your anger, and possibly rejected someone. What were they showing you about yourself that you feared? How do you feel the situation was determining your worth? Maybe the next time these feelings begin to rise in you, or you see them bubbling up in someone else, try taking a deep breath and just hold it for a moment. Slowly release it. Try that a few times until you feel somewhat of a calm return to your body. And in that stillness, see what fear might be trying to manipulate the situation. And if you don't try this, it might make me sad or angry. Not really. Your journey is your own. I'm just sharing my own experiences because this journey is hilarious. And I love to share what I've learned along the path that I have traveled. You might be on a whole different island altogether than me, with all different experiences. So if what I share resonates with you, that's awesome. If it doesn't, well, maybe this was a nice bedtime story for you. Have a great nap. Enjoy your voyage, Captain. I love you.